Ponzi schemes damage the fiscal credibility and image of every country. So since this bubble burst and that Men's Gold engaged in an activity just like that, we found it necessary to do what we can to claw back that credibility. And when the international press starts to read about Ghanaians committing suicide as a result of this, big companies that want to come here may not come here because they will say that our fiscal regime is weak. So the state stands to benefit from this as well. So therefore, we call on the state to partners and the private sector to partner so that we give that, emotional and psychological support to victims of this scheme before depression leads people to committing suicide. You take new subscriptions to pay old ones. So therefore, at some point, because you are not getting any new subscriptions, the enterprise is going to crash. So that is how come I think it will be very difficult, even with confiscating and auctioning so-called assets of Men's Gold. It will be very difficult to pay everybody their principal or original deposit. So don't politicize this issue. Don't blame government. These were, individual decisions people took. They were not forced into taking the decision to invest with Men's Gold. Maybe they did it because they wanted to support a local company. Maybe to the Men's Gold people also wanted to support to create employment. But unfortunately, this is the eventuality. So what we need to do now is to make sure we save lives. The property bit will come, but it's not too important now. How do we get people working again to recoup what they have lost, so to speak? But getting the money from you will be quite difficult, frankly speaking.
It's very difficult.
It's going to be very difficult to get the money back because many of the assets you see were long leases, like some of the office, buildings and all that. So how do you auction them and pay people off? That would be difficult for government. And the guy got himself a private jet. Whether he hired it or he bought it, only God knows. Fleets of, luxury cars. And government says, well, we can't use the taxes of the poor to pay for your luxurious excesses. And I agree entirely with government. I think Ghana has got competitors within the sub-region, and foreign direct investment will come in an atmosphere where fiscal regimes are watertight, so they can protect people's investments. We have competitors like La Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, and others. So we can't let down our guard in making sure that the right things are done. That is why we need to rid this country of the perception. And therefore, this support program is very important. When I started seeing the pictures, I felt, okay, well, it was one of those things. When I saw mothers wailing, the cry of the woman is so poignant and emotional. So I felt I couldn't sit alone. I needed to take this up as an individual Ghanaian to provide them the needed support, which is very important.
So you said it's free?
It's completely free. And this is what I can do as a young average Ghanaian.
What motivated you to do this?
I think humanitarianism. Yes, the cries of Ghanaians do something to my heart. So I felt I needed to take this up so that I can help my fellow compatriots. But of course, because this problem is a national crisis, it's widespread. I wouldn't say no to any form of partnership coming from either government or the private sector, because we can't operate only in Accra. This Men's Gold, scheme did not affect only people in Accra. That is why we can't operate offices only in Accra. We want to spread our tentacles to other parts of the country, Tarkwa, Kumasi, Tamale, and even those in the diaspora, they have been affected because in a very deceptive way, offices were opened in other countries, like in the UK and Spain, only to cajole people into putting their money into this scheme. So we are open to partnerships from government and the private sector to broaden the scope and reach of this support program for victims of such a scheme. That could cost the lives of many if nothing is done about it now. ensconced within a much bigger, establishment, Afro-Arab group of companies. And the men's gold is within the structure. And there are offices that are meant to tackle one-on-one sessions. And then when people come in a group, we are free to do that as well. Because just as I indicated, there's no emotional support better than what your family can give you. And confidentiality is key. For some people, they don't want the world to know that they ever had anything to do with Men's Gold. So we are good to go, and then we make sure that we keep their identity anonymous. But I prefer sessions with a couple, a man and a woman. Full disclosure to your family is very important in this circumstance. Tell your wife. If you're a woman, tell your husband, tell your kids why you've not been able to pay their fees this term. And cry with them. The tears will wash away a good chunk of the pain. And so that they will provide you that emotional and psychological strength to forge ahead, because it's not easy. The cases we are working on are terrible. Some are bedridden because of this incident. Some are almost going mad. So therefore, it's an emergency. It's a national emergency issue, and we need to tackle it now rather than later. It's quite a spacious room. For people who brought monies together, fully air-conditioned with fans to make them feel quite cozy. So this is a collective session. You can take about a dozen people or more at a go. And so we urge people, family members who came together to invest, they can take their session at a go. Minds like Donald Trump, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, they've invested before and run at a loss. Wow. So Men's Gold people should not be customers, should not be victims. The US tries to brand itself and show the best it has to the world. So in Washington, D.C., I saw Trump Tower, Trump Hotel, and in New York City, there is Trump Tower. So I was so marveled. How could this guy be such a great investor? Then later I got to know that he had actually invested in a business in Atlantis and ran at a loss. Yes, Donald Trump. So please don't worry too much. Don't allow anybody to stigmatize you. You did this in good faith. Unfortunately, businesses may thrive or crash. This one has crashed. So therefore, don't recoil in your shell. If you are bedridden now, I want you to get up and jog. Get up and walk. Is there a problem? Yes, there is. Our lives are at stake. Yes, there are lives that are at stake. What do we do? I think when the dust finally settles, we'll look at our regulatory regime within the fiscal environment, and then strengthen the weak, fringe areas, and also consolidate the positive gains we have made as a country. So I would urge everybody to stop the blame game. Let's be solutions oriented rather than delving too much into the problem.
This is not the first time.
Yes, sir.
We've been seeing a lot of scams, looking at DKF, and a lot. You can give examples of what I do remember is DKF. What advice are you giving to state institutions, especially Bank of Ghana, SEC, and security as a whole?
You see, financial issues are national security issues. That is why there is an intelligence outfit for the BOG, Bank of Ghana. Not everybody you see in a banking hall has come to trade with the bank. Some are spies, so to speak. And there is a whole center, FIC, a Financial Intelligence Center, to check money laundering and, terrorism financing and all that. Not all that glitters is gold. Ghanaians should not chase, outrageous profits. If it is too good to be true, then chances are it is deceptive. And then these regulatory bodies too should be up to the task. I've proposed a 3P approach, a preventive way of stopping this from even starting, a preemptive way of when you find early vestiges of it, you should clamp in immediately. Men's Gold was in active service for about 5 years. You don't allow a scheme to go that long. Half a decade was too long a haul for us to have identified the problem. So preemptive and then protective. So that people who suffer as a result of Bitcoin, DKM, Men's Gold, and any other such schemes, American Tilapia, and these things, they come with very funny names. You saw the slogan on the Ojolo, headquarters of Men's Gold, epitome of, you know, glory, you know. So we need to be careful. And Ghanaians should be quite less enthused about materialistic things. The fact that the person makes a big entry doesn't mean that the person is genuine. We have very successful Lebanese, Indian, and Ghanaian businessmen. When they are even moving, you will not know. They are in one car. Then a young man out of nowhere moves about in a convoy. Then he gets himself a jet. These are signs that show that this grandstanding is just meant to convince people to bring in more money so that their monies go down the drain. So let's be cautious and have early warning signals of Ponzi schemes so this doesn't happen again.